Dear students, dear colleagues, good afternoon and welcome to our English session for today, in which we are going to talk about Unit 6. First of all, let me at the beginning of this session, dear students, allow me to introduce my colleagues in the studio who are going to participate in this session for today. Miss Lilian Ajib, an English teacher from Damascus Directorate. Good afternoon, Miss Lilian.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bassel, and good afternoon, dear students.
Thanks for coming. And Miss Susan Hamdan, an English teacher from Damascus Directorate. Good afternoon, Miss Susan.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bassel.
Well, dear students, dear colleagues, as you know, of course, our session for today is for both the scientific section and the literary section, because we are going to talk about, of course, Unit 6. As you know, in Unit 6, dear students, the title of Unit 6 is the United Nations, or the history of the United Nations. Let me first introduce, let's say, the skills included in Unit 6. Of course, we can follow the laptop, please. Let's start. Thank you very much. As you can see, dear students, in this unit, when we talk about the listening skill, of course, you are going to learn how to listen for general understanding. And when we talk about speaking, of course, you are going to learn how to give opinions. When we talk about reading, of course, we are going to read an article about the history of the United Nations. When we talk about writing, of course, you are going to learn how to write a magazine article about students' rights and duties at school. When we talk about grammar, of course, you are going to learn the future forms, or some, let's say, future forms used in English. In pronunciation, we are going to learn something called the word stress with different syllables or with two syllables. When we talk about vocabulary, of course, here we are going to introduce prefixes and, let's say, how are they formed and why we use them in English. When we talk about the everyday English corner in Unit 6, of course, you are going to learn how to express modesty. So, dear students, before we, let's say, before I ask my colleagues in the studio some questions about the reading article, allow me first to read, let's say, the article for you. Of course, we are very sorry because the book is not with us, PDF. We cannot download it for now, so I'm going to read it from the book itself. First of all, I hope that you are following me. The United Nations was established, of course, by the Charter of the United Nations and the Statute of the International Court of Justice. The Charter was signed on 26 June 1945 by the representatives of 50 countries, including Syria. Poland signed on 15 October 1945. So there were 51 founding members in 1945. The United Nations officially came into existence on October 24, 1945, after ratification of the Charter. The day is now celebrated each year around the world as United Nations Day. The Security Council contains 5 permanent members: China, France, Russian Federation, the United Kingdom, and the United States, and 10 non-permanent members elected for 2-year terms by the General Assembly. The United Nations was the second multipurpose international organization established in the 20th century that was worldwide in scope and membership. Its predecessor, the League of Nations, was created by the Treaty of Versailles in 1919 and disbanded in 1946. The UN also has regional offices in Geneva, Vienna, and Nairobi. Its official languages are Arabic, Chinese, English, French, Russian, and Spanish. At the beginning of the 21st century, the UN and its programs and affiliated agencies struggled to address humanitarian crises and civil wars, unprecedented refugee flows, the devastation caused by the spread of AIDS, global financial disruptions, international terrorism, and the disparities in wealth between the world's richest and poorest peoples. So this is everything about the article about the United Nations. Of course, as an organization, in the charter, we have some aims and we have some principles. I'm going to ask my colleagues in the studio about these two things. Well, first of all, Ms. Lilian, let me ask you this question, please. We have a very important question, which is how was the United Nations created? First of all, what is the United Nations and how was it created or established?
Okay,
Yes,
the United Nations is an international organization. It has many purposes, and it was established by the Charter of the United Nations and the Statute of the International Court of Justice.
Good. So we can follow the laptop, please. We can say the United Nations is a multi-purpose organization. The laptop, please. Thank you. It is a multi-purpose organization established by the Charter of the United Nations and the Statute of the International Court of Justice. Thank you very much, Ms. Lilian. Now, another question, Ms. Sausan. When was the Charter signed and who signed it?
Yes, the charter was signed on 26 June 1945 by the representatives of 50 countries, including Syria. Now, Poland signed on 15 October 1945, so there were 51 founding members.
Good. So at the beginning, only 50 countries, let's say, signed the charter. After that, Poland, let's say, joined the 50 countries, and there were 51 countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again, the laptop, thank you. Another question, dear students, dear colleagues. Let's say we have the Security Council in the United Nations. Ms. Lilian, which countries are, let's say, the permanent members of the Security Council?
Okay, the Security Council has permanent members and non-permanent members. For the permanent members, we have China, France, Russian Federation, the United States, and the United Kingdom.
Good. So these are the 5 permanent members. Of course, there are also 10 non-permanent members, 10 non-permanent members elected for 2-year terms
by the General Assembly.
By the General Assembly. Good. So in the Security Council, we can say that there are 15 countries, but 5 of them are permanent and 10 of them are non-permanent.
Yes.
Good. Another question, Ms. Sausan. When was the League of Nations established? We know that the United Nations as an organization was, let's say, the second international organization in the 20th century. So there was, let's say, another organization before this organization, before the United Nations. So it was called, of course, the League of Nations. So,
and it was created by the Treaty of Versailles in 1919.
Good. So we can say the League of Nations was created or established by the Treaty of Versailles 1919. Thank you very much. Another question, Ms. Lilian. What was the main purpose of the United Nations at the beginning, let's say, of the 21st century? Please.
Okay, the United Nations has many purposes. So the United Nations and its programs and affiliated agencies struggle to address a humanitarian crisis and civil wars, unprecedented refugee flows, the devastation caused by the spread of AIDS, global financial disruptions, international terrorism, and the disparities in wealth between the world's richest and poorest people.
So let's try to reread the text, please, or the answer. The UN, the United Nations, and its programs, its affiliated agencies. When we say affiliated, it means joined, connected, linked, okay, connected, struggle to address humanitarian crisis, as you said, and civil wars. Unprecedented refugee flows. When we talk about the word unprecedented, what do we mean by this?
It means it didn't happen before.
So it was the first time the world, let's say, witnessed such a thing, such a flows in big numbers. And the devastation, it means the destruction, of course, the damage caused by the spread of AIDS, global financial disruptions or problems, international terrorism, and the disparities. What do we mean by disparities?
Differences.
Differences in wealth between the world's richest and poorest people. Thank you very much, Ms. Lilian. Well, another question. Now, when we talk about the Charter of the United Nations, Ms. Sousan, of course, in the Charter, we have some aims, the aims of the United Nations, and we have the principles of the United Nations. Can you give us an idea, Ms. Sousan, about the aims of the United Nations?
Yes,
Please.
when we talk about the aims or the goals of the United Nations, first of all, to keep peace throughout the world.
Good.
And to develop friendly relations between nations, for sure, to help nations work together to improve the lives of poor people, to conquer or to fight hunger, disease, illiteracy, and to encourage respect for each other's right and freedom.
When we say illiteracy,
Not
the
knowing how to
inability
read or write, yeah.
Inability to
Inability to
Read or
read
write.
to read
or
or
write.
write. Inability to read or write. So this is the meaning of illiteracy.
And finally, to be a center for helping nations to achieve these aims or these
purposes.
goals. Yeah.
These goals. Thank you very much. Now, Ms. Lilian, what about the principles of the United Nations, please?
Okay, there are 6 principles of the United Nations. First of all member states have sovereign equality. Number 2, all member states must obey the Charter. Number 3, countries must try to settle their differences by peaceful means.
It means to settle
solve.
their differences, it means to solve their problems.
Yes, to solve their problems.
By peaceful means,
Okay.
not by using force. And
Countries must avoid using force or threatening to use force. Number 5, the United Nations may not interfere in the domestic affairs of any country.
Good.
And finally, countries should try to assist, meaning help, the United Nations.
good. Thank you very much, Ms. Lilian. Now, dear students, as you know, after the article, dear colleagues, we have an exercise about, let's say, some new words. As you know, in each unit, when we have a reading text, of course, we will introduce some, let's say, new vocabs, new words. So here we have an exercise in Unit 6 about some, let's say, 6 words maybe, and we will try to match the words with the meanings. Maybe who can do this exercise?
I can
Ms.
do it,
Hassan,
yes,
okay?
thank you.
Uh-huh.
Now, when we talk about charter, we mean a statement of the principles and purposes of an organization.
So this is the meaning of the charter.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is a statement which includes
Statement of the principles and
Yes, the
purposes
principles
of
and the
our
purposes,
organization.
yes.
Now, when you go to Google and search for the meaning
Yes.
of this word, you will find it is the founding document of the United Nations.
yes, yes, of course.
Ratification, it's making
Means-
something valid by confirming it. Permanent, or like happening all the time, continuing to exist for a long time.
Good.
Predecessor, a system that existed before another one. Now, affiliated, when being joined in a close association. Now, about devastation, the last word, it is the state of being decayed or destroyed.
Thank you very much, Ms. So, Sanana, I think we have also explained some other words in the text when we, let's say, read the text. Now, we have another title now in the unit, Ms. Lilian. When we talk about vocabulary, of course, here, under this title, we have something new. We will introduce something new, not the words included in the reading text, but maybe some other new words. In each unit, we will try, or we are trying to do this the same. We introduce something else, let's say some new words, not included in the reading text, but in a way or another, let's say, they are connected, let's say, to the unit. Here, the title is prefixes. Let me ask you, what are prefixes? And why do we use them in English.
Okay. A prefix is a letter or a group of letters added to the beginning of a word. That's the meaning of a prefix. Now, why do we use them? We use prefixes in general in order to create new words with new meanings. So when I say new word, this means that a word might be a verb. When we add a prefix, this verb might turn into an adjective or a noun or an adverb.
Good.
That's first, that's in terms of class, and in terms of meaning, the meaning will become completely different as long as we say that it is a new word.
Good.
Now we have some examples of prefixes that give a negative or opposite meaning to a word. Now examples of these prefixes are d, dis, in, m, ir, non, an, miss, and anti.
Good.
These prefixes, when they are added to a word, they give negative meaning. However, I have just to say and to confirm the idea that not all the prefixes give a negative meaning to a word. Here, in this unit in particular, we have specific examples of prefixes that give negative meaning.
Thank you, Ms. Lilian. I think that you have explained very well the meaning of prefixes. So any student in the baccalaureate in 12th grade, grade 12, must know the meaning of prefixes. It is a letter or a group of letters, and we add them, let's say, to the beginning of the word, not to the end of the word, to the beginning. Of course, we have some other, let's say, suffixes added to the end, and we call them suffixes.
Like ly. It changes part of speech,
yes,
that one.
Suffixes are added to the end of the word to make new words. Move, for example, movement, it becomes a noun.
Yes.
Friend, friendly, we add ly, etc.
So we change part of the speech from verb to a noun to...
Yes, yes, of course. So here, to make new words, when we say to make new words, it means to make a noun, an adjective, a verb, etc., or the opposite, to give the opposite, as Ms. Lilian said. Thank you very much. I think we have an exercise in this unit. I think it is a beneficial one, useful one. Here, the rubric says, use the prefixes above, I mean, you have just explained, Ms. Lilian, or mentioned, to make antonyms of the following words. For example, Ms. Sousan, please.
Me, okay. Now, when we say activate, the
Yes.
opposite meaning is deactivate. Possible, impossible. It gives opposite meaning as well. Understand, misunderstand. So not understand well. Or understand something else. Familiar, unfamiliar. The opposite meaning. Courage, discourage.
Good.
They are all opposite
We
meaning.
have other examples like...
Okay.
Okay, go on.
Yes, you go on.
Logical, illogical. It starts with L, logical, and the
yes.
opposite is illogical.
Good.
Regular start with R, the opposite is irregular.
Irregular.
Yeah. Irregular. Complete, incomplete. Refundable, non-refundable, and virus, antivirus.
Good. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Well, now, Miss Lilian, another skill in Unit 6, which is pronunciation. In pronunciation, we have a new skill introduced to the students, which is the word stress with 2 syllables. We know that we have in English some words which, let's say, contain 2 syllables. It means 2 parts when we pronounce them. So we can say we divide them naturally into 2 parts. So they contain 2 parts
Syllables.
or 2 syllables. So what about the stress? What can we do when we pronounce them? Must we, let's say, stress, or should we stress the first syllable or the second syllable? Or what if we stress the first syllable? What if we stress the second syllable? So the floor is yours, Ms. Lilian.
Okay, for sure there are many words in English that contain 2 syllables. So they are called 2-syllable words in English. Now, whether we stress the first part or the second part is something related to the meaning and to the class of a word. Now, if we stress the first part of a word, this means that we are pronouncing a word that's an adjective or a noun.
Good.
However, if we are stressing the second part of a word, this means that this word is a verb. For example, we have the word present. Now, when we want to stress the first part, like present, it means a noun or an adjective. However, if we stress the second part, it becomes a verb, like present.
Good.
So this is an
We
example.
have some other examples, for example. Process, it is a noun. Process,
Is a verb.
it's a verb.
Record and record as well.
Record, recall. Good. So it's very simple. And the students, let's say, can master this skill when they practice it. By practicing only, they can master these skills. Frankly speaking, when we talk about English, we usually advise the students not to learn something by heart, but to practice it and to repeat it as they can. So by this way, they will master the skill naturally. But we advise them not to learn by heart. So don't follow this wrong strategy. Okay? This is our advice for them. Now, another title in Unit 6, Ms. Sousan.
Yeah.
When we talk about grammar, of course, in grammar, here we introduce the future forms, or let's say not all the future forms, some future forms. We can use some, let's say, forms, some tenses to express or to refer to the future.
Yeah.
Let's try to introduce them one by one.
Yes,
Please,
for
Ms.
the
Sousan.
future forms, here we are talking about will or want, the negative, and we are going to talk about be, going to, only these two. So when we talk about will or want, it is will plus not.
Yes.
So we use will for two purposes here, for predictions or an immediate action.
Or sudden decision. Immediate decision.
Decision.
Not action.
Immediate decision or action.
Decision.
It is
a
immediate.
decision.
At the
We
same time,
decide
yeah.
suddenly something to do
At
it.
the same time of happening it.
Yes.
So one day people will travel to Mars. This is prediction.
This is a prediction.
But when I feel thirsty, I will drink something.
It is
this is for immediate,
an immediate decision.
action or decision.
So you have decided to do something.
I decided
So it is a decision
immediately.
because there is
Yes.
let's say, a mental process,
Yeah.
and you have decided to do something suddenly.
Yes, immediately.
You have no idea about this before. Suddenly, you decide to drink something. Why? Because you feel thirsty. If someone is knocking at the door now, so
I will open
say,
it.
excuse
Yeah.
me, I'll open the door. If my mobile is ringing now,
At
I
the
say,
same time of
excuse
ringing,
me,
okay, I will
I'll
answer the phone.
Okay, so it's something decided suddenly. So we can use will, as you said,
Yes.
for predictions or for immediate or
Decision.
sudden decision.
Yeah.
It is an action, of course, by the way, but it is before
Decision.
it becomes an action, there was a decision taken
Yes.
or
Exactly.
made. Okay.
Exactly.
Another form for the future.
Be going to.
Yes.
Be, it means
And I think students,
is, are.
all students
Are
know
familiar
these two
with this.
forms because they have, let's say, studied them in grade 9, not
for
only
sure.
in grade 12.
Yeah,
so
all the grammar
they
are
studied them
repeated
before,
throughout the
so they are very
classes.
common, these two forms, when we
Yeah.
talk about will or be going to.
We have many others forms, but here we are not only talking about these two.
Yeah.
When we talk about be going to, be is like is, are, it depends on the subject. Now, we use be going to for actions that we have decided or intended to do before we speak.
You see, before
Yes.
so we have a plan.
We have a
here.
plan here.
Okay,
Yes.
can you go, let's say, shopping with me tomorrow? Well, I'm sorry, because I'm going to visit my grandma.
So this is a
I'm so
plan.
busy tomorrow, I can't go with you. So I
Yeah.
have a plan. I have decided to do something before I speak. Of course, the situation here is different.
So it is for arrangement or for a plan.
Let's take an example.
I'm
Miss,
going to
Sousan.
clean my room this afternoon.
You see, so you
Yeah.
have decided to do this before you speak. It is
Yeah.
not something taken suddenly.
Something I planned
Okay.
for
At the
it in
moment
my
of
mind.
speaking.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Miss Sousan. Miss Liliane, I think we have some other future forms.
Yes.
Like what?
As we said at the beginning, that we are talking here about future forms. This means the tense is different, but the meaning it conveys is a future.
Yes.
And among those forms that express future meaning are present simple and present continuous. Now, present simple is used to talk about future meaning. There are two specific meanings conveyed by present simple. The first one is to talk about an event that is arranged in a timetable or schedule.
Good.
For example, when we say the train to the airport leaves in 20 minutes. So here we have leaves in 20 minutes because we have timetable for the for this train to leave. Another example, okay, the school system in Syria ends in May. Now we have timetable for the school system according to
It
the
is
school
something
calendar.
fixed.
Yeah,
Yes.
fixed
It
time.
is a system
Fixed
that
time.
cannot be changed.
That's it.
Good.
That's
Very
the
good.
first meaning conveyed by present simple. Another meaning is that when there is conjunctions or adverbs of time.
We call them
Adverbs-
time clauses, if you like.
Yes, time
Okay.
clauses, adverbial clauses,
Because time
conjunctions.
clauses start with a word that
Like
is
when-
related to time or
Yes.
refers to time.
Like when,
So-
as soon as, after, before, until, as long as.
For
An
example?
example, when the teacher arrives, I will ask him about this exercise. Now, in the clause that contains when, we have present simple. The form is a present symbol, but the meaning it conveys is a future.
Good.
It's
So here, dear
future.
students,
Future
as
meaning,
you can
not future
see,
symbol.
the verb leaves in this sentence is
Simple
called
present.
simple present. But this simple present refers
To future.
or gives a future meaning, as Miss Lillian said. Another verb arrives here. When the teacher arrives, of course, the teacher arrives in the future after some time from now. So when he arrives, so it refers to future. I'll ask him about this exercise or I'll do something else. It's
Yes.
okay. Another tense,
Yes,
another
another
form.
tense is a present continuous. Present continuous is used to talk about future event, where we use it to talk about things we have arranged in the past to do in the future. So this is something similar to be going to, that I have an intended plan, something I decided before, something I arranged before to do in the future. For example, Stephen is starting a new job next week. So this next week refers to the future, and is starting here, the form is present continuous, but the meaning conveyed is a future.
Good.
Future, not future symbol, because some students mix
So
between future meaning and future symbol.
let's try to, let's say, clarify the situation easily. Let's say that Steven applied for a job in a big company, okay? And the company asked him to send his CV. They studied his CV and they were, let's say, they praised him a lot because they liked his CV, and they called him later and they told him that you can start your new job in our company next week. So Steven will come to us and say, I'm starting a new job next week, because he started to arrange something before now and he will do it after now.
Later.
So he began to do something before and he will do it later. So we call it a personal arrangement. We can use the present continuous for the near future, as you said. Thank you very much. I think we have two other forms, Ms. Sousan. The future continuous, and we
Yes.
have another form.
When-
Let's talk about the future continuous, please.
When we talk about the future continuous, we use it to decide or predict events continuing over a period of time in the future. So, as an example, if I say I'll be working on this report at this time tomorrow.
So, for
So,
example, let's say that it's
is-
2 o'clock now.
Yeah.
At 2 o'clock tomorrow, I will be working on my report.
Yes.
Or I will be visiting my aunt. I will be sleeping. I will be studying, etc. Okay? Good.
And we use it to ask about someone's plans or the duration of the plans, like when we say, how long will you be using this laptop?
Good. Good. Thank you very much. I think it is very clear. It is formed with will plus be plus the
Verbalized.
ing form.
Yeah.
Thank you. The last form, Miss Lilian,
The last form
in
is
the future,
okay.
in this unit, of course, it is not the last form. We have some other forms that refer to the future or give a future meaning. But in Unit 6, we have only 6 forms. The last one.
The last
please.
one is a future perfect. As for the form of the tense, we have will, have plus verb 3, or and in the negative form we have won't have plus verb 3. Now, as for the meaning, we use it to talk about a future event that will finish, that will end, that will be completed, will be done before a specific time in the future. Now, this specific time in the future is often expressed in a sentence using words like before, by plus fixed time, or in plus amount of time.
Let's give examples on these 3 phrases.
Yes.
Before next Tuesday.
Let me start with the first one.
By the end of this week. By the end of this month. By the end of this year. In 2 weeks. In 1 week from now. In 2 weeks from now. This is the amount of time. Okay, the example, please.
Okay, the first one, in a week's time, I will have finished my report. The second example, by the end of this month, I will have finished all my exams. So we can say, in the second example, for example, I will have finished. So here we are talking about an event that will be complete in the future. It's not complete now, but it will be complete in the future.
It will be completed before the coming of this time.
Yes, that's it. Before the end of this month.
The week ends, before the week ends, I will have finished my report. It means the speaker here is trying to assure the completion of an action before, let's say, the coming of this time.
Yes, that's it.
Right? This is the meaning exactly of the future perfect and why we use it. Thank you very much. I think now we can introduce or give the students an idea about, let's say, tenses or future forms, and how can we ask them in exams. So we will have, let's say, a simple exercise. Ms. Selsan, please.
Yes, we have at the end of the grammar session, when the answer, I'll let you know. We have when. The first, we have 2 part of the sentence. The first one when, the second one will. So we use it simple present, because when it's like the if sentence. If sentence.
Here we have
and
a time clause.
First,
we have a time clause. In time
it's
clauses,
similar
we use
to the
the
if
simple
sentence,
present.
don't you
Yes,
think so?
yes,
If
it's the
plus
same.
simple present, the other will.
Future.
Yeah.
Yes. When I find the answer,
When
let
I find,
you
I'll let you know.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So the answer here, or the correct answer, is C. Is choice C.
Simple present.
Number 2.
My exams space on 27th June. Now we have first A, will finish, B, are going to finish, C, finish, and D, are finishing. Now the correct answer here is C, finish.
Why?
The reason is that we are talking about a
Timetable.
timetable, schedule,
Fixed
something
timetable.
arranged according to a timetable or
It is
schedule.
a system. Here we
That's
are
it.
talking about something fixed. It is a system that
time.
cannot be changed. It is a timetable or a schedule. So we have to use the simple present form. It is choice C.
C.
This is the correct answer. Thank you very much.
Number
3.
Number 3, we have will at the second part of the sentence, and we have after. Because we have after and will, we will use the simple present. So
Again,
after I get the
it's
contract.
like number 1. It's the same.
Exactly. When we use when, after, it's like if sentence.
Yes.
After I get the contract about my new job, I will inform you.
So here, choice A is the correct one. Thank
Yeah.
you very much. Number 4, Miss Lilian.
In 2 weeks from now, we, space, our project. We have A, finish, B, will finish, C, are going to finish, and D, will have finished. Now, the correct answer is D, and the reason is that we have something specific in 2 weeks from now. And the meaning of the sentence is that we are going to finish this project.
Means after 2 weeks from now.
Yes, in 2 weeks after 2 weeks from now. And the meaning is that we are going to finish this project before a specific
these
period
2
of
weeks
time, which is
finish.
2 weeks.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much. So it is choice D. What about number 5, please?
Number 5, the sky is cloudy. I think it
Soon.
We have A is raining, B is going to rain, C rains, D will have rain. Now we will use B is going to rain because it's a prediction for something we see before our eyes. The sky is cloudy. So it's prediction.
So here we
Will
have an
going to,
evidence.
yeah.
Of course, we said before, when we talked about the future forms,
Yes.
we said that we use will for predictions.
For predictions.
But also we can use be going to for predictions when we have an evidence. It means that the speaker here is 90% sure that there is something which is going to happen. It is going to happen. Why? Because the sky is cloudy. So here we have an evidence.
Yes.
So when we predict with an evidence, we use be going to, not will. For example, when we say Ahmad is studying medicine, okay, what do we say? He will be a doctor or he is going to be a doctor? Of course, he's going to be a doctor. Why? Because we have an evidence. He is studying medicine. Okay.
And this is future plans, by the way.
So here, this is number 5. So the correct answer is B. Thank you very much. And the last one now.
The last one, at this time tomorrow, I, space, my boss. You cannot call me at this time. A, will be meeting. B, meet. C, I'm meeting. And D, will have met. Now the correct answer is A, which is will be meeting, future continuous, because we are talking about an activity that will be in progress in the future. And the time referred to that is at this time tomorrow. So we are talking about a specific period of time tomorrow.
It means
that will
the
be in
speaker,
progress.
it means the speaker at this time tomorrow, he will be in the middle of the action, doing something. Okay? So here we have to use will be meeting. Why? Because you can't call me at this time. I will be busy at this time. I will be doing something at this time. So here the correct answer is A, choice A, will be meeting, not will meet or am meeting or will have met or meet. Thank you very much, Miss Lillian. Another, maybe the last one. Before the last one, of course, we have another skill, which is writing. We can talk about writing later when we finish about this corner, the last corner in this unit, which is called Everyday English. And this corner, of course, we have a title, which is called Modesty. How to express modesty? What expressions or phrases do we use to express modesty? We can talk about that. Yes, please.
Yes, there are many expressions to express modesty. Here in the book, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 examples are given. So we have, like, when someone praises us, we will say, okay, it was nothing really, nothing at all. This is modesty. And that's very kind of you. Thank you.
Let's try to give some examples before we read the slide for the students. When someone praises you a lot, and
like a job, you mean?
you'd like to express your modesty, to be modest with him. It was nothing. I did nothing at all. I did nothing really. It's something usual. Okay, I do it every day. So you try to be modest with him, not to, let's say, to try to become proud of yourself a lot. Okay, because maybe this inherits vanity in the person's character. So we usually use these expressions to express, let's say, to be polite with others. Okay, so we usually use, for example, the phrases, please, the expressions, Miss Sousan.
Like, it was nothing really, nothing at all. That's very kind of you. You are embarrassing me.
You're embarrassing me.
Embarrassing me, yeah, sorry. You are.
When someone says, you're great, you're a genius, okay?
You're embarrassing
when you
me.
do something great, so your friend maybe or someone says, you're great.
He
You've
feels
done
blushed
something
or
great.
something, yeah.
Okay, so you try to be modest with him. You can use one of these expressions.
Yes, you're embarrassing me. It's just like I am flushed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or
So you're
exaggerating.
you're exaggerating. Yeah. I did nothing really.
I did nothing really.
He's modest.
Let's have an example. Now, maybe most students, let's say, want to know or how the question will be in the exam. In the exam, we usually, let's say, try to give a part of a dialogue in this situation. So it is a short dialogue. Two persons are talking together. So the first person, let's say, sends a message, says something. The second speaker must give a response. So the student has to choose the correct response. Let's read the example, Ms. Hussein, please.
Okay. Oh, I do think you're clever, knowing about computers and things. Now, what should we answer him? Congratulations, or I am so proud of you, or I am sorry about what happened, or you're exaggerating. Now, when someone praises us, oh, I do think you are clever, for sure, I will not say congratulations, because congratulations, we use it when someone...
Congratulations
yeah.
when you, for example, won a big prize,
Yeah,
when you,
it's like
let's say, won a
Lottery.
match.
You won
when you win a
something,
match.
so we congratulate him for winning. I'm so proud of you for what? Okay, not this one, but we can say you're exaggerating.
Good.
This is
good.
modesty.
Good, thank you very much. I think, dear students, these are everything for Unit 1, I mean the main
Unit
skills.
6.
Of course, we have another skill, which is the composition. Now, because we still have about 10 minutes maybe to finish
Great.
this session, so we can, of course, talk about the writing skill. So let me read the rubric of writing in the Unit 6 in no more than 100 words. Of course, in the exam, the situation is different. We usually ask the student to write no more than 80 words, not 100 words, but because here it is in a book and it is just, let's say, a training exercise. So here they have to write an article to your school magazine about students' rights and duties at school.
Yes, it's at page 66,
Use the answers
right?
of these questions to help you. We give some hints or some questions to answer or to be answered. For example, what are the duties of students? Let me ask you these questions. Miss Lilian, if I want to write, let's say, a paragraph or a composition of no more than, let's say, 80 words in the exam about my duties, my rights and duties at school as a student. Of course, you are not a student, you are a teacher, but let's say, try to imagine that you are a student now at school and you want to write about your rights and your duties. Of course, I'll ask you about some rights maybe or some duties. So what can you tell the students how to start writing such a paragraph? What should they do first? Some
Okay.
pieces of advice.
Okay, first they have to specify the idea they are going to talk about. Now, in this paragraph, they are going or they must talk about duties and rights. They don't have to describe the school, describe the teachers, or anything else because these are considered irrelevant ideas. That's first. Second, they have to think of 3 points or 4 points of each one. 4 points to talk about duties and 4 points to talk about rights, for example. And the most important part, as I said, they shouldn't write off points. They shouldn't write irrelevant ideas.
May I give
Okay.
something?
course, Ms.
Yes, may I
Hussein.
add
Yes,
something?
please.
Now, when we start writing a paragraph, the first sentence should contain or should tell the reader what we are going to talk about.
Good.
So we can start the first sentence by like, I'm going to write about the duties of students, and this is so simple. And
Course.
this is the...
You can start this way. I'd like to thank you really because you have referred, let's say, to a very important point. Thank you, Ms. Lilian. First of all, we usually advise dear students when they want to write a composition, of course. The composition,
statement.
as you know, will be parallel in the final exam.
Yes.
It won't be, let's say, from the book. It's not literal. I mean, it's not the same. It will be parallel, related or connected to or
the
with
book.
the units included in your course or in your book. I mean, the main idea of the paragraph is connected with the book, with the course in a way or another. Here we are talking about duties and rights. We can talk about duties and rights as citizens. As a citizen in your community, you have some rights and you have some duties. And I think we have introduced such rights and duties when we talked about in Unit 5, right? But here, the civil law, for example, the civil rights, sorry. In Unit 6 here, again, we are talking about politics. When we talk about politics, we can talk about rights and duties, but here we are talking about a small, let's say, society. Because a school is a small society. It is similar to the big society, but it is something different here. Because here we have, as a citizen in your society, you have to obey the laws, you have to obey, let's say, some rules, to follow some rules. Again, at school, you have rights and you have duties. I mean, there are some rules and you have to obey these rules, right? And that's it. So here, as Ms. Hossan said, we advise students when they start to write their composition not to learn something by heart, ready-made to write it in the exam, because the situation will be different.
Disaster.
I'm sure of that.
Disastrous,
I'm 100% sure that the situation will be different in the final exam. So don't learn
if the
at all
student forgets a
something
word,
ready.
he will forget everything.
Exactly. So try to train yourself to write. Now, how can I improve my writing skill? When I read a lot.
For sure.
When I read a lot of texts, I will get, let's say, a lot of vocabs, a lot of experience, and let's say a lot of, I will receive a lot of grammatical structures. Exactly. So I will be able to write, I will be able to use, let's say, the connecting words very well. I will improve my spelling because I read a lot. I will improve my using punctuation marks correctly.
Because these all have marks at the exam,
correctly. So when we talk about the writing skill, dear students, we know that it is one skill, but in this skill we can talk about a lot of skills. The skill is writing, but when we talk about writing, we have grammar, we have spelling, vocabulary, we have vocabs, we have punctuation marks, we have capitalization, as you can see, we have some sub-skills included in this skill. So you have to train yourself how to use all these things to be able to write well. Now, of course, at the beginning you will make mistakes. It's not the end of the world, dear students. You can make mistakes. We all make mistakes when we write. Even when we want to write in Arabic, in our mother tongue, when we want to write an article in Arabic, not in English, we make mistakes. So it's something normal. Don't be, let's say, confused or annoyed when you make mistakes. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. Your teacher will help you. As Ms. Hossan said, when you write a composition, you have to start your topic with the key sentence. Because from the very beginning, the reader should know what you are going to talk about, or what are you talking about. When you want to talk about rights and duties at school, you can say students have at school, let's say at school, students have some rights and duties. In this article, I'm going to talk about some rights and duties of students at school. First,
Yeah, first. So
when we talk about
we
rights
will use
now,
the chronological order when we
exactly.
write after
Now,
that.
when we talk about
Use
rights,
conjunction.
what are your rights as a student at
Yeah.
school? To be treated, let's say, well, right? To be, let's say, taught well, to get, I mean, good teaching or good learning, let's say,
Yeah.
okay? And what else? What about the building?
To be clean.
Electricity,
arranged.
for example.
Classrooms
the
must be
classrooms.
ready for the teaching process, for example. This is a right. You have to have a desk, for example.
Clean
You
bathrooms.
have clean
Cleaning, yeah.
classrooms, let's say quiet atmosphere, well, let's say qualified teachers.
Yes, that's it.
Even the principal of the school should treat his students very well. The teachers, there must be a good relation between the students and the teachers. So a healthy atmosphere. All students must get a healthy atmosphere to be able, let's say, to learn. So all these are rights, I think. What else? Let's try to think of something else.
We can say about electronics or the
Technology.
We
but
have
here we cannot say that
technology
because we
or
have
some
electricity cut all
technological
the
tools
time.
must be valid or available for the students,
They must be
because they
available,
can
yeah.
improve or develop their, let's say, teaching process.
They must
Am
be
I
treated
right?
well as well.
Good. So then they must be trained well to use these technological
yeah.
tools or technology. So these are some rights.
can help a lot
When
in
we talk
studying.
about duties now, what about duties?
There are many duties students
Like
should
what?
do. They should
Write
wear,
their homework.
okay, wear
Before
uniform,
homework, before doing
be
homework,
polite,
be polite,
Be polite,
obey the
yeah.
rules.
obey the rules.
It is your duty to
obey
obey
the
your
rules of the-
teacher,
yeah.
to obey the rules of the school itself,
the
to
uniform,
obey the law,
everything.
right?
Yeah.
Because there is a system and you have to follow this system. You have to come to your classes
As students.
at time or on time, right? Be punctual. Am I right? What else?
They shouldn't make noise inside the classroom. They should wear their uniform.
Help their classmates. Okay, it is again a duty for each student to help his classmates in classrooms and outside classrooms, at school in general, and to help their teachers also, right?
And be
So-
polite, first of all, to be polite.
Good. So these are exactly. So these are some duties. Okay. I think any student, if he tries to think of the real situation, his school, himself or herself, he will be able to, let's say, write down some ideas and then try to compose some statements about these ideas on the paper. Then he can
Yes, so
Right.
there should
make
be
a
a
revision,
draft,
right?
then
a
writing.
draft. So
yeah.
first of all, try to think.
Brainstorm.
Write
yeah.
a plan for your composition. Write down on the paper some main ideas. Try to think of
Explain
how
these
to
main
write
ideas.
statements from these ideas,
Yes, to
how
explain
to
them.
connect them
Together,
together.
yes.
Then you will have a draft.
Yeah.
Then you have to revise
The
for
draft.
finding any mistakes or looking
Grammatical
for
or
any mistakes whatsoever.
yeah.
Grammatical mistakes, spelling mistakes,
Spelling mistakes.
punctuation mistakes, capitalization mistakes, etc. Then he can
Write the ending sentence.
write the final copy, let's say, his final composition.
Yeah.
In this way, when students follow this strategy, I think they will be able to write. When we ask students in grades from 1 to 6, or from, let's say, at least 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, believe me, they can write many structures, many statements alone without any help. When they reach, let's say, grade 9, grade 10, they feel that they are weak and they cannot write. The
Because
reason
they are not
is
practicing
so
writing.
clear and so simple, because they stopped writing and stopped training themselves to write. So reading is not everything in any language, dear students.
May I tell something?
Reading is one skill,
Yeah.
you have to practice the 4 skills of the language: reading, writing, listening, and speaking.
May I say something?
Because time is over,
Three session for the English teaching at week, it's not enough.
Good, thank you. Well, we can say that, but up till now, we have only 3 periods for
only
each
3
class.
periods,
It's
they're not
okay,
enough.
and the teacher
We
and
can
the
manage
student
ourselves
should
with
manage
that.
himself or herself to do something
The book,
during this time. Well, dear students, dear colleagues, at the end of this session, let me thank Ms. Lilian Ajib, an English teacher from Damascus Directorate. Thanks for coming. This is your
Mr.
third
Razak.
participation. Thanks a lot for coming. And Ms. Sarsan Hamdan, an English teacher from Damascus
Thank you
Directorate.
so much.
Thanks
I
for
wish you all the
your
best, and
participation.
to our students.
Dear students, we hope that we have covered everything important in Unit 6 till we meet in other sessions. This is Basis Sadiq greeting you from the Syrian Educational Channel. Thanks for following us. Thank you.